and welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. I'm your host Jen, and I'm very excited to talk about today's episode. But before we begin, there will be spoilers as we talk about major events that unfold within the story. In addition, each episode will have a list of trigger warnings in the description. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast, and show your support on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Alright, and we're back with another episode, and I'm going to have to welcome the one and only Kamille.
Hi, I'm excited to be here again.
Yay, I'm excited to have you back. What book did you bring for us to talk about today?
So I brought The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. Once I found out I was going to be on here again, I really wanted to bring a book that was trending right now. So I brought this, and I heard it was really good by some of my friends who read it, so I thought it'd be a good one to talk about.
I mean, you gotta trust Reese Witherspoon, right?
Of course.
Who else in the world would you trust?
Yes. She's the queen.
But yeah, so this was from Reese's book club edition type deal. It's even got a nice little stamp on the front. This was published on May 4th of 2021. So kind of, last year when the pandemic was still pretty bad, she's here cranking out books. So
I know.
Perfect timing, I guess.
Yeah, good for her.
And I think it's very cool. I was looking into this because I was thinking this would be a really cool movie or something. And they're actually already starting a mini series for Apple Plus TV, whatever it's called, starring Jennifer Gardner.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I'm really excited about that. I don't know when it's coming out, but I'll definitely be watching it.
I think they're just now kind of getting the cast list going, but they're going to start it soon, and I'm for one, am very excited.
Me too.
So we're going to play a little game before we get started. You've been here before, you know what we're about to do.
Of course.
So for the game today, we're going to summarize the book in 30 seconds or less.
All right, so this book is about a father who disappears due to some issues at the workplace, and so his wife is left to take care of his daughter, and they try to go on a journey to figure out why he disappeared.
Yeah, perfect. That's it. That's it. You got it. It's a mystery thriller, I think is what it's specifically genred as. Genred? Is that a word?
Categorized, or I don't know.
Okay, categorized as. I'm going to summarize it really quick for anybody that doesn't know the story. So, before Owen Michaels disappeared, he smuggles a note to his beloved wife of 1 year. Protect her. Except his daughter, Bailey, wants absolutely nothing to do with her new stepmother. As the FBI start to get involved, Hannah quickly realizes her husband isn't who he says he is, and that Bailey might just hold the key of figuring out Owen's true identity, and why he really disappeared. Hannah and Bailey set out to discover the truth, but as they start putting together the pieces of Owen's past, they soon realize they are also building a new future, one neither of them could have anticipated for. So yeah, I'm super excited to talk about this book. This isn't necessarily a book I personally would have picked up, just because I'm not really into this genre stuff. But I'm glad that I did. I think this was a cool way to kind of introduce the characters with, for example, the flashbacks and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I like the flashbacks too. I feel like sometimes it was kind of hard to keep up. I had to really be focused when I was reading because she did so many flashbacks. So it was okay, when is this taking place again? And so sometimes it was a little confusing, but it was a really good way to go back and see that side of Owen that you wouldn't have been able to see without those flashbacks. So I thought that was well done, but a little confusing at points if you're not super focused.
We'll come back to the flashback because I have a few other things I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But we're going to first start with our favorite quote.
It's on the last page of the book. Actually, both quotes that I brought were on the last page. So I guess the first one is then, I take a deep breath and take her in. She walks hand in hand with Shep, the new boyfriend. He gives me a salute, which I'm sure he thinks is cute. It isn't, but I smile as they walk up. How can I not? Bailey is smiling too. She is smiling at me. Mom, she says. Now, I loved this quote because we'll talk about it later, but Bailey and Hannah had a kind of a rough relationship throughout the story. Bailey was very closed off, and just hearing her call Hannah mom was just such a pivotal moment. I really love that quote. And then the second one that I brought, also on the last page. But so this one says, then he stands up and starts to head out the way he came. And it's then that he says the one thing that only he would say to me. Could have been boys still love you. And I love this one too because like Owen and Hannah joke about that a lot. They joke about her like exes and he calls them the could have been boys. Hearing that he says this to her after he hasn't seen her in so long, that was just only he would say that, you know? Yeah. So it was really sweet.
A little inside joke.
Yeah, definitely.
When I read it, I honestly kind of forgot about it because there was so much that happened. So,
right.
And then I went back through and was kind of like rereading the last few pages, and then I was like, oh, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
So, I like both of those quotes. The first one you had was the last sentence of the book, and I think that was such a great way to end it, to show that not only character development for Bailey, but that relationship building for both of them.
Exactly.
And Shep. Have you ever played Animal Crossing?
I have.
Okay,
yeah.
So there's an animal named Shep, and it's a sheepdog. And so every time I think about Shep in the book, I imagine Shep from Animal Crossing in human form. So.
That's so funny. I haven't met Shep in Animal Crossing, but that's awesome.
So cute. I'll show
He
you a
sounds
picture
cute.
after.
Okay, please.
My favorite quote that I brought is Hannah is talking about how she really wants Bailey to trust her, and she knows that she can't just get that trust. It has to be built up. One of the quotes that she says to kind of follow along with that, she says, "You can't tell people to trust you. You have to show them that they can." I just love that quote because I'm a full believer of that. It's like you can't just expect people to trust you and respect you right out the gate because you think, you're older or wiser than them. It's like you need to gain that kind of trust and that kind of respect from people. So Hannah is one of the favorite characters that I have because she is very respectful and she's just so good with Bailey. And I won't get too deep into it, but I think that was a good moment where I kind of connected with Hannah a lot.
No, I love that quote. I remember reading that and I was like, yes, like she gets it. Like it's just like the saying, actions speak louder than words, right?
Yes.
So she knows she has to prove that she can trust her through her actions and not just saying that she can. So yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, especially because Bailey is obviously younger than her. And I feel like when people go into a marriage that they're a step parent, some people might go in and think, I'm an adult, these kids need to trust me. But it's like, you also have to kind of see the kids have been through a lot. And they, in some cases, do lose a parent in that divorce or anything that happens. So I just really respect her going in and keeping that mindset that Bailey is also hurting.
Of course.
Hannah is queen.
She is. She's awesome. I love her.
What are some things that you liked about the story?
One of my favorite things was kind of what we touched on, but just seeing the development of Hannah and Bailey's relationship, and eventually Bailey opens up to her, and I really liked seeing that throughout the story. I also liked the flashbacks with Owen too, even though I mentioned how those were confusing. It was just nice to be able to see those glimpses in the past, and that kind of helped you connect to how he was now.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that we only see Owen through the memories.
Yes.
Except for that last tidbit at the end. I love that we only see him through Hannah's memories.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I think those were the two main things, I would say.
I also really liked that, obviously this is a mystery.
Right.
It's genre-edged that way. I'm never going to live that down. But I loved that we didn't know where it was going, especially towards the end. And I like that it ended that way. I'm glad that he didn't come back in their lives, and which is sad to say, but and kind of mean. But I'm glad that he kind of took the more kinder way instead of involving his family. He kind of stepped back and said, "Okay, you guys are more important than me keeping you around. I want you guys to be safe." So I like that aspect. And going back to the flashbacks, I do like that the flashbacks kind of revealed clues about Owen, and you don't really see them unless you're actually focusing in on what's going on.
Right.
I also liked how the flashbacks kept going farther back. So it started at 3 months, and then we had a 6-month, an 8-month, year, 2 years. I liked how it went back like that instead of random spots. So what are some things you didn't like about the book?
I mean, I'm always a sucker for a happy ending. So I have mixed feelings about the ending because I like that it was still a mystery and like you didn't get that, you know, that answer and that happy ending. But then part of me is like, it would have been nice if they could have ended up together. I know it's not really realistic because of everything, but I don't know. I guess I would have liked a happy ending. I would say that. Yeah. So
I mean, I think her and Bailey getting like
that's
pretty happy.
That's definitely on a happier note for sure, but my heart breaks for them, you know, and he has to continue living his life like all alone without his family and his loved ones. Like, I don't know, I just feel for him and wish he could be with his family, but I understand why he can't, so I'm not that mad about it.
I actually want to branch off of that idea. I really do like the last chapter and how it starts with 5 years later, 8, 10. We don't really know how far in the future it is. But kind of like how you said, I wish he either chose to stay or didn't come at all. I wish he didn't come. Because I feel like if we never saw Owen / Ethan, spoilers,
right,
/ Ethan, so I wish we never saw Owen because it makes me feel like he doesn't want Hannah to forget about him. But it's at the same time, but you left. And it makes him feel kind of like an illusion to me. Like Hannah feels like she can't go on because there's always that slight chance that he might come back and be there with them.
Right.
So it feels like, I just want to know what he wants. Like, do you want her to move on and become, like, you know, happier with somebody else? Or do you want her to kind of keep that clutch on you and be like, okay, well, what do you want type deal?
Yeah, and I think after reading that part, like, where they run into each other, I was wondering, like, okay, is this going to happen again down the road? Yeah. Like, who knows if he's just going to be following them, like, wherever they go in public and, like, run into them again? I don't know. Yeah, so I can understand that. I feel like the last chapter just makes you have a lot of feelings and like uncertainty about what's going to happen in the future, and it makes you think about the book a lot like after you read it, which I really like too. So some other things I didn't really like about the book, I didn't like how it felt like it was just hopping from one place to another. They were at the boathouse. So going from California to Austin, but then jumping around from, like, the college, the bar, the hotel room. There's just a lot of hopping around that I didn't, like, love. I think if it flowed a little bit better, it would have been easier to follow. But it just seemed like, okay, go here, didn't find anything. Go here, found something. Go here, get attacked by your uncle. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like hopping around. It wasn't as fluid as I wanted it to be. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think it made it distracting too. So it's a little bit harder to focus on the details of the story because they were kind of, you know, jumping around all over the place within Austin or California, wherever they were. So yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I wouldn't say that I didn't like it. It's just something that I noticed that kind of put me off a little bit. So I think that they had also a lot of characters that just didn't stay. They had Jules, who was in it a couple times. Yeah. But didn't really see her main purpose, I guess, besides being a friend. And we're going to talk about her. But also, like, the detectives and the ex-boyfriend and Grady and the uncle and the grandfather. Like, a lot of characters that I feel like was just put there for the plot, which is kind of sad to say. I wish there was a little bit more development. If you're going to put these characters in, don't just introduce them and then leave them. Like, do something with them. Oh, yeah, I would agree with that, too. I mean, really, the only 3 main characters were Hannah, Bailey, and then Owen / Ethan. So, yeah, and then the other characters were like, oh, you'd see him for a little bit, and then they wouldn't be in the book for a while, and then you see him again. So, yeah, there was definitely a lack of development with the other characters that it probably would have added more to the story if there was more about them, for sure. Yeah. Like, I would have liked more about Jake. Too. I don't think she went into heavy detail of, like, why they ended up, because they were engaged, and then they weren't engaged. Yeah. So I just wanted a little bit more of, like, that, I guess. Oh, that's a good point, and I actually kind of forgot about that, but yeah, because I was kind of curious what happened between them, like, why aren't they together anymore, and all that stuff, so it would have been interesting to hear more about their relationship and why it wasn't successful. Because if you're engaged to someone, but you're still willing to help that person that you were engaged to find their current husband, it has to, like, it's very interesting. I want to know what happened to make it where they were still friends enough where he is willing to help her. Right. It must have not been on completely bad terms the way they ended things, so one thing I want to talk about, and we have mentioned that it was a mystery, which clearly it is, but another thing that it was genre as. Okay, I'm done. That's the last one.
categorized as was that it was a thriller. And me personally, I didn't get that sensation of thrill. The only time where I was like a little on my toes, I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen, was that scene with Charlie in the bar when he freaks out because of the picture. That was it. But I never felt like Hannah and Bailey were in danger. I never felt like they were being followed or being, I don't know, in danger, I guess, is the only way I could think of.
Yeah, I think the same way, because I think of thriller as like you're on the edge of the seat because, yeah, someone's being threatened, someone's in danger or whatever. I also did not feel that way. Yeah, I'm not really understanding why it's genre as a thriller. I get the mystery because you aren't certain about Owen / Ethan, and trying to figure that all out. But the thriller, I'm like, it's not, in my opinion. It's really just a mystery, I would say.
Yeah, I think it could have gotten that category if they were just followed a little bit more. Like they were just running around Austin, like no care in the world. So maybe they were followed a little bit more, put some urgency on them trying to figure out what happened. But yeah, I didn't feel that. Like I didn't feel like a time limit they had to do it either. Like it was just like, let's just go do this on a good Saturday night.
Yeah. Let's just go figure out why he disappeared, you know, on our own time.
So another thing I want to talk about, it's just a random little tidbit, but I loved Hannah's job.
Like, I did too.
I think it was really cute. She was not a carpenter.
Like a woodworker?
A woodworker, yeah. And I like that it's different than a typical woman's, quote-unquote, woman's job. Mm-hmm. When they were telling her, like, they were opening it up as, like, she was an artist. And I was like, okay, like, but then she started talking about how she was making this chair and, like, doing all this kind of stuff. And I was like, yes, slay girl. So.
Oh, yeah. No, I also loved that. And it was cool because that's how her and Owen met in the first place. Did she have her own store of stuff?
She had an art gallery.
Oh, that's right. And so she was working on some of her pieces, and then Owen came in and started checking out her work, and then they got to talking, and then he eventually asks her out. It was nice that her job also connected to how they met, too.
Speaking of that day, I didn't notice the first time I read it. I guess I just was trying to get the characters' names down, but he actually introduces himself as Ethan.
I didn't pick that up either.
Yeah, like I was reading some things on it, and they were like, "Did you guys notice that he introduced himself as Ethan?" Oh, I did not notice that.
Oh my gosh!
Back. So yeah, he actually does introduce himself as Ethan. Then the next time they met up, he was like, "Oh, I'm Owen," or the next time he says his name is like, "Oh, I'm Owen."
Weird. Deal. Yeah, I did not pick up on that either.
Yeah. Who was your favorite character?
Mine was obviously Hannah. I loved how much she was there for Bailey. And I can't get over that. Like thinking her husband literally just ups and disappears. And then she's left to take care of his daughter. And I think a lot of people wouldn't step up the way that she did. I just have a huge soft spot for her.
Yeah, she's a good character. I think she's a role model for Bailey as well. Bailey's a teenager also, so we gotta add that. That's even more difficult.
Right.
Is like she's known her whole life just her dad. So she's just, it's always been her and her dad, and now this other person is coming into the picture, and she feels like her dad is kind of slipping away. I feel like that is kind of Owen's fault though, because that was kind of the idea, was to start slipping away. Speaking of like that aspect, do you think that Owen married Hannah and tried to get the girls to, like, connect to each other and trust each other? So that way, when he did run away, he had someone there. Like, instead of looking for a wife, he was looking for a mom.
Yeah, that's tough, honestly, because I kind of go back and forth with that, because I think definitely that could have been something he really valued when looking for a partner. He probably wanted to find somebody that he knew would be a good mom in case, quote unquote, shit hit the fan. So I can see that, but also I don't know if he was expecting things to come out the way that they did with his workplace and everything. I mean, but he knew, so like he might have known that it was going to blow up at some point. So I don't know, I'm kind of torn with that one. I think it was definitely something that he valued when, like I said, when looking for a partner. I think he was always thinking about that what if scenario if stuff did blow up and that he did have to leave.
That's one thing about the book, it kind of leaves completely open-ended.
Right.
Because you don't really know, like, there were scenes where we see Owen be very caring towards Hannah. But again, these are Hannah's memories. It could have been perceived a different way. So we don't actually know if Owen really was that in love with her. Like, it's completely open to interpretation, which is really cool. I do like that.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point, that we don't know his side or how he feels truly. So
yeah. So my favorite character was Jules.
Oh yeah, she is great.
So I like Jules. Jules was Hannah's friend, and I like that she not only was an accomplice to this and like went to her house and like moved the money and stuff and got the will, but also I love that she like respected Hannah's boundaries. Like, she understood what she needed when she needed it, and I would have loved more background on their relationship, how they met, how it grew, and like how long they've been friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like Jules. I think she was kind of like just that like sweet point for Hannah, that she needed a shoulder to like cry on and like somebody to pick her up as she's picking Bailey up.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked her.
Yeah, Jules was super reliable and was always there when Hannah needed her. So I really liked her too. She was one of my favorites in the book too.
Before we go on, I also want to talk about Bailey a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Bailey, obviously Owen's daughter, Hannah's stepdaughter. I'm not gonna lie, I thought she was very annoying in the beginning. I didn't like her. Yes, she went through a lot, and she's very emotional. She's a teenager. I don't know. I felt like she was kind of like on a thin line of either being way too fake or like very realistic with her character and her development. So I found it hard until the very end. I found it hard to like connect with her in any way.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, in the beginning, yeah, I was very annoyed with her too. I thought like, this girl is the biggest brat ever. Granted, like you said, she did go through a lot, but I think for me it helped because there was some moments throughout the book, like during the flashbacks with Owen, that there was a very like faint moment where she shows some sort of positive feelings toward Hannah, right? Like, I think at one point they were at dinner together and then she smiled at her for like a quick second. So I think that kind of helped me connect to her a little bit more, but I still had issues because, I mean, she was a brat. So, but then at the end, I'm like, okay, I love you. So
yeah, I think that her character development really hit really well, and that she grew up, and she did in the end. She ended up being like in her 20s at that point at the end of the book. I like that. I like their relationship as they grew.
Yeah, I do too.
So another thing I want to talk about is a main theme in this book, family, obviously, but also accepting one's family. And sometimes that means accepting the lies that you're kind of being told. I want to dive into like Bailey's family a little bit. So we have Charlie, who is her uncle, and then we have her grandfather, Nicholas. And the way that this story kind of played out was, I don't want to say it, but it was a little messy. I kind of had a hard time following what the danger was. So basically, Nicholas's daughter, Kate, who is Bailey's biological mother, she had died in a quote-unquote car accident, and it was like set up, staged and stuff. Ethan at the time, he like testified against Nicholas or something. I might get my information crossed here though.
No, that's okay. Yeah, that was really messy for me too, because there was just, I feel like it was very choppy. Like, there wasn't like a whole lot of detail about what happened, and so it was hard to kind of understand. But Owen tried testifying against Bailey's grandfather, Nicholas, because they were working together on some sort of projects, but then Bailey's grandfather was kind of he was dipping his toes into stuff he shouldn't have been, and I think Owen or Ethan at the time knew about that. And so I think that's why he testified against him and exposed him, especially after when they killed his wife by the car accident. I think that's kind of like, that drew the line for them, because he was really close with Nicholas. Like, they talked about how they're like two peas in the pod and they worked very close. But then I think Nicholas going to the point of maybe having his part in having his own daughter killed, he was like, okay, I'm done with this, and I'm gonna expose you for all of the stuff that you've done. Yeah, but it was messy. That's a good word to describe it.
Yeah. I bring this acceptance theme up because at the time, Hannah is hearing this all from Nicholas' perspective. She doesn't know anything about this. This is all new information. Right. And how she's hearing it from Nicholas, she's trying to see Owen's point of view. And she's trying to look at it where she's still, like... It's weird. I don't know. The entire time, she still kept expecting Owen to show up, wanting to still find him, even though he's been lying to her the entire time. And she still was like, well, I want to hear from his point of view. I want to know what's going on. I want to make sure he's safe. And it's like, this man's been lying to you the whole time.
Right.
And I personally would have probably been like, deuces. Yeah. I'm going to take care of your daughter and head out. But she just accepted that, you know, he had a background and still willing to find out what the answer was, I guess. So, yeah, I think the background was a bit choppy and a little forced in some places. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think the whole thing with like her accepting Owen's background and history, I think she accepts it because she knows that Owen wouldn't have done this because of how much he loves Bailey is why he did what he did. So I think she understands how much he loved Bailey. I mean, she was his whole world. And so because of that, I think that kind of helps her put it in a different lens and accept his baggage that a lot of people wouldn't, because she knows, like, he had to do these things to protect her. Yeah, I think that's kind of what helps her get through all of the crazy stuff that a lot of people would just be like, all right, bye, don't want to be a part of this anymore. So
yeah, it kind of flows into how this book really opens your eyes to other people. And like, no matter how close you are to somebody, unless you are like conjoined twins, no matter how close you are, you don't know everything about a person.
Right.
No matter how much she loved Owen or even Bailey, she didn't have any idea about their background. And it's crazy to think, like, this can happen to anybody, honestly. We don't know anybody's background. And people will keep secrets safe from their loved ones, but in the end, it might hurt them. So it's like, I don't know, it's crazy. It makes me, like, when I read this book, I was like, okay, this is, like, questioning everybody in my life.
No, yeah, I get that completely. Because, yeah, I mean, they were husband and wife, and you think you know your spouse so well, and then all this stuff comes out and it like completely destroys everything you thought you knew about the person. I mean, everything he told her was pretty much a lie.
Yeah.
From the day that they met. Mm-hmm. And so that's just mind-blowing that, like, you think about the people that you know and you're like, oh shit, is this like happening to me? You know, like, how do I know, right? Yeah. So I liked the book in that aspect, is that it keeps you on your toes and like thinking about other people and like your relationship with them.
So in this book, who is your favorite relationship?
I mean, I have to go with good old Bailey and Hannah. So, yep. I think this is just a huge part of the story, so we've talked about it a couple times already, but I just really liked how Bailey was so closed off in the beginning of the story, actually probably until close to the end, was very closed off. And I think a lot of people would be like, nope, like, they're not going to try as hard to get to know the person or get to, like, to be there for the person, right? But Hannah was very persistent, like, letting her know, like, I'm here, like, when you're ready for me, like, I'll be here for you. Mm-hmm. And eventually Bailey does come around, right? Like, I think even at the end of the Austin trip is when she really starts to see how much Hannah is there for her and that she can trust her. Yeah, it hit on the heartstrings just to see their relationship develop from being so closed off to then being so close that Bailey calls Hannah mom at the very last sentence of the book. So, yeah.
Absolutely agree. I think this relationship was very refreshing. I like that it wasn't just a typical love story and it wasn't just about finding Owen. I'm glad that we had this other kind of like branch to cling on to and kind of root for, for Bailey and Hannah to get stronger in their relationship. And I just love how so respectful Hannah is with her boundaries. Like you mentioned earlier about them going to dinner and that she smiled at Hannah. And that's because she got tickets for all of them to go to a play or something. Mm-hmm. And Bailey did not want Hannah to go, and she was like really sad because she wanted to spend time with Owen. But Hannah said, "You know what? Just you and your dad go. That's totally fine. Like we hung out all day today. We don't need to hang out tomorrow." And that's why Bailey smiles at her, because she understood. She just respected her boundaries from the beginning, and like you said, that she always looked out for her. She always kept Bailey's best interests in heart, and for that reason, that's why they are also my favorite relationship. And again, the last sentence is just a perfect way to show that final character development for Bailey. So I did love that.
Yeah, me too.
So we're gonna play a little game now. So I have a list of characters that we have from the book, and I stick to mostly like plot and important characters, and I'm going to describe them. Not gonna lie, I was literally laughing so hard making this list. It was so funny. So I'm not gonna describe them in like feature-wise. I'm just gonna describe them of like one quality about them.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna get started. The first one we have is Mom of the Year.
Mom of the Year, that's gotta be Hannah.
Yeah. Next we have Ultimate Best Friend.
Best friend is Jules.
Yep. So the next one is Hates His Son-in-Law.
Nicholas.
Yeah. Just read the next one. Okay. Next one is Left at the Altar.
Left at the altar?
He was left at the altar.
Oh. Jake. Okay, that took me a second to think about. I didn't see Jake at first, so I was like, who is it?
Yep, Jake. Hates a Disruption.
Grady?
Not Grady. This one is interesting because we actually haven't talked about this character at all because he had such a small part in it.
Oh, would that be Cook?
Yeah, so okay. Tobias Cookman, which was his professor in college, and Hannah and Bailey went to his class, walked in the middle of class, and was like, hey, we need some more information about this guy that we don't know the name of, and we don't know if you remember. It's from like 26 years ago. And he just like death stared them the entire time and was like, what are you doing in my class? So
I honestly forgot about him for a second, and I was like, who is Cook? And I was like, oh, once you said that, I was like, okay, that makes absolute sense.
Next is Deserved Better.
Deserved Better. Bailey.
Yeah. Next character we have is Two-Faced.
Owen?
Two-Faced.
Oh, Owen? Okay, I absolutely love that.
Next we have Hates His Brother-in-Law.
That's Charlie.
Mm-hmm. And the last one we have is the guy working way above his pay grade.
And that's Grady.
Grady was doing too much.
Right, I know. He was way too involved. It's like, relax, dude.
Yay! You got 100%.
Yay! That was much better than the other game that we did.
No, that one was fun too.
I just embarrassed myself.
That one was hard, I'm not gonna lie. I went way too hard. I had way too much fun making it, and I was like, didn't even think about how hard it was gonna be.
I learned a lot though, so it's okay.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Let's hop back into it. So what are some things that you personally would have done a little bit different? And this is like completely opinion based. Just if you were writing this book and making the story, what would you have done differently?
I think it would have been interesting to get more of a perspective of Owen, maybe even with the whole family drama that happened with his father-in-law. It would be interesting to have a flashback with just him and like the family to understand more of like why that happened, how that came about. Mm-hmm. So I think that would have been cool to add just so we could have more understanding of that whole situation because it was kind of confusing.
It would even be kind of cool to do like a prologue from the mom's point of view that night or even.
Yeah.
So, because I think the readers might even try to connect, if they did an I point of view, like the first person point of view, maybe the readers would kind of connect it with Hannah and be like, oh, does she die in the end? But it's really, Kate that dies.
That's a good idea.
That would have been kind of cool to do.
Yeah, I like that. I would also say maybe have a more present day of Owen or Ethan, like before he disappears, maybe have a couple chapters of like them as a family together just to understand how they operated as a family and to understand more about their dynamic and that sort of thing. I think that would have been nice to see personally for me. And then at the end, I would have liked a happier ending, but I also understand why there wasn't one, like I said before. So those would be my things.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're saying about present day Owen, like even some like, I don't know, it didn't feel like he was even part of their lives in the beginning. And we didn't really see an appearance of him throughout the story besides obviously the memories. She didn't talk about like anything about the family. Now that you're mentioning it, yeah. Yeah, so I said that I wish there was, honestly, you could have done different points of view in this one as well, between like her and Bailey. So you could see like Bailey's point of view of what's going on and get to understand a little bit more. Or do that prologue in the front where we kind of see a little bit of that background. I just want more background on things. I want to know more of why these things are happening.
Too.
And I will go anywhere and say that Hannah's the best character in this book. She's awesome, but I would have liked a little bit more character development. I feel like she was kind of stagnant the whole time, and she didn't really improve in anything. Not saying that she needed to improve on like something, but I would have liked her to have one kind of bad trait that she improved on.
Yeah.
Because she was kind of just good from the beginning to the end. And I would have liked maybe something to kind of develop on in her character. But yeah, other than that, that's all I would really honestly fix.
I agree with the Hannah thing because she already seems so perfect from like the beginning of the book. So like it would have been nice if she wasn't so perfect and then she changed over time. I think that would have added more to her character for sure.
So yeah, we are going to rate the book now. So we do something a little bit different here on the Book Stop. We kind of make up our own little rating scale. So I would give The Last Thing He Told Us by Laura Dave 6 imported dogs from Germany out of 10. Which again, we didn't even talk about, but Nicholas has he had like 2 or 3 dogs that were imported from Germany. Some Germany-bred dogs that just followed him around, and I respect that. It made him look, I feel like it added to his character because it made him even more creepier.
Yes.
And like more like big boss guy.
Yeah.
And he actually just wasn't.
No.
Like he was very, like, was sad. He's sad that he lost his family. And like, he just told Hannah the story and was like, eh. But I just think it was funny that he had dogs imported from Germany. It reminded me of High School Musical 2.
Yes! Oh my god.
He sings the song.
That is such a good point.
But yeah, that's what I think the book, I think it has some good qualities, but there was some, like, the plot, they could have made it a little bit stronger, background-wise, maybe get a little bit more of that. But yeah, that's what I would rate it. How about you?
Yeah, I would probably say I'll do 7 imported dogs from Germany. Like you said, there's a lot of good qualities about the book. I did enjoy it, but there definitely were some missed opportunities, like to give more about the background, what happened with his family. I think that would have been nice to have more with like Bailey's side. That would have been cool to see too. So I feel like there was definitely room for it to be expanded on that she could have added.
Yeah. Well, I think that is it. Thank you so much for coming on to the Book Stop. I know you've been busy with school and stuff. Everyone, Kamille is almost done with grad school, so
yes.
Claps of applause.
Pray for me for my last semester because it's going to be the toughest one yet, so.
You got this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on again. I had so much fun.
Of course, and we can't wait for another one. We don't have one scheduled right now with grad school.
Right.
But we will definitely do another one.
Oh, yeah. I would love that.
I always have fun when we have one together.
I love me too. It's always a good time.
Yes. You have to check out, we did It Ends With Us. And that one was a very interesting book.
Yes.
If you didn't read it, woo, go listen to that one. But, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for turning the pages with us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support by leaving a review, sharing the episode, and following the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast. Join us on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hope you are too.